if you don't convert, we'll kill you. And the people that convert, I don't believe they're all saying, you know what, this is great. Thank you for putting a sword to my neck.
Yeah.
Now I see the truth.
Thanks, man.
And
Just don't eat out of this tree. God had to create choice to create love.
100%, 100%. Well, it's interesting because the word love has really been, changed in its definition and its understanding.
Yeah,
love can't be in conflict with truth.
That's right.
And love isn't tolerating people. It's not being nice to people. This is not love. Love is where it's that motivation. It's the power to overcome everything else. It's the most powerful motivator to do that which is righteous, which is, it's the most powerful motivator when it comes to sacrifice, when it comes to courage, overcoming fear. That's what love is. Love is the foundation that you rely upon to have courage or to have, because people will die for a principle.
Yeah.
It's not even something physical. It's like just a principle of like people will die for freedom because they love the truth. They love freedom. Whereas we've been taught this ridiculous version of love that's very weak.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the problems we see in Christianity. One thing I wanted to bring up was I remember at the COVID rallies, and I've known you a lot longer from well before the COVID era, but I remember your wife. There were Islamic like missionaries that were evangelizing Islam, and she went right up to them and started to evangelize the truth and break down the lies that are in Islam. And I remember seeing her do that, and you just said, "Oh, just let her go. This is what she does." She's and she was totally staunch on that principle. So she's very strong, a woman. And has she been? I mean, it looked like she had been, but has she been quite active in ministering to Muslims since she's left, to other Muslims that she's met?
She's got an online ministry,
right, okay, yeah.
Just by, posting and, on she'll get attacked by Muslims and whatever else, but she just says the same thing. I prayed all my life. I done everything I could for Allah and nothing. There was nothing. And you could see it on so many testimonies where so many Muslims just felt nothing. There was no presence. There was no nothing.
Well, they felt the peer pressure and the fear that if you fall in line, otherwise we're going to call your names. We're going to lower your status. Yeah, because that's what I see in the community. Like I see a lot of these when you first see Islamic communities. To me it looks like, oh, these guys, they follow these rules. They seem to be all, quite honourable in what they're doing. But then you realise that there's this fear underpinning all of it that you must. And then when you start reading their doctrine, you start understanding it. You're like, wow. Like the idea of religious freedom, I don't think it should be afforded to a religion that teaches such horrendous things.
100%.
Things like, if you apostatize from Islam, that you can be, the punishment's death, kill the apostates. So how can you give or afford or be tolerant of a religion in this country, the West, that's in complete opposition to that, where, we're gonna give you a religious freedom to practice and evangelize a religion that doesn't provide religious freedom. I don't think we should let people do whatever, if it's what you want to do it, because the things that they're doing is basically in complete opposition to what we're trying to do. So it creates a warlike situation where you've got people with the complete opposite values, a very different treatment to women, where women don't have the same status.
Yeah, you're right.
And we have a culture that values women and men as being equal.
You're right. I agree with that. 100%. You're 100%. Why would you want women's rights to be removed from them in a country where they're afforded those from the get-go, the moment they get here?
And I'm not promoting feminism like this woke version of women's rights, but for women, like you see how women in the Middle East are treated. that they're covered from head to toe. And I'm not, and this is not all Muslims. This is just an Islamic thing, but we see it a lot. We see a lot of oppression against women. You see all those women that have been murdered in Iran for the crime of not wearing their hijab the right way, or for taking the hijabs off at a rally. Like the freedom of expression, they don't have it. It doesn't exist. Like anyone that thinks that's okay and we should afford people the right to practice that kind of religion and that kind of peer pressure over the people of their own community in this country or in the West, totally unacceptable. It should never be afforded to them. Yeah,
that's right, 100%. And by the way, the reason why, we live in it's completely different here. Women are encouraged to wear the hijab because Muhammad says you don't wear it, you can get abused, and that with Christianity.
So there's the peer pressure though, isn't it? You'll get abused. Yeah. So I'll put this on so I don't get attacked.
Well, you can get sexually abused, if you don't wear that. If you don't wear one of those full hijabs.
Well, right? I mean, we look at the Pakistani rape gangs that were going around.
That's it.
In in the UK. We've got the was it Rochdale? I think it was one of the towns. There's a number of them. This has gone on for years. We see because of the mass migration of people into Europe, we're seeing crime, but specifically rape and sexual assaults. They're like tenfold. Increase. It's massive, and this is real. Like it's an objective thing that you can measure and you can see it. And it's interesting because the idea that you're a racist or you're an Islamophobe for mentioning these things, that narrative it doesn't have any effect really anymore. Like people are apart. We can see now, and all you do is look at the societies that are built on Christian values. And then you look at the societies that are built on Islamic values, you see the difference, right?
That's it.
And it's pretty well across the line. You can see. I mean, there's maybe a couple of Islamic countries you can look at and go, they seem to be doing it okay, but the vast majority, you wouldn't move there and go, hey, let's move to Afghanistan. No, let's move to Iran.
That's it. Who wants to go there?
Do you think that it's plausible that there's an increased risk to the female population through the importation of a lot of men from culturally different, largely Muslim countries?
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely going to be an increase in crimes against women if you're going to be letting men into the country from Muslim-majority countries, because the way that they view women is very different than the way women are viewed in Western nations. So if you look at, for example, Egypt, the country where my mother is from, women there, 99.3% of women report being sexually assaulted. 99.3. It's an astounding number. It sounds like hyperbole, but this is a true number, and the research was done by UNICEF. And the reason why you see such astounding numbers is because it's so much a part of the culture. It's so normalized. This idea of gang rapes that we've heard about that were happening in Germany, for example, so when men go around a woman and basically like predators, pouncing on their prey in the middle, which we saw happen in Tahrir Square in Egypt, that's called taharrush. It has a name. It's a part of the culture. It's what men do when they see a woman alone, and when she's not, protected by other men around her, then they consider her to be prey, and then they do this. They surround her. In Islam, there is this idea that if a woman is covered in hijab, she is to be protected. She is not to be raped. And if a woman does not have hijab on, then she's asking for it. It's free for all, basically. And so there's a very clear differentiation between how they treat not just Muslim women and non-Muslim women, because even if a Muslim woman is not wearing hijab, then they will treat her with the same disdain and attack her in the same way. And, having said that, the truth of the matter is this 99.3% number that I gave you, a huge amount of those women are in hijab and even in niqab as well. Because at the end of the day, when you raise your boys to think of girls as lesser than and to see them as things to be used, then that's what they're going to do. They're going to, whether the woman is in hijab, whether she is not in hijab, whether she's in niqab, they treat women in that way. They think that women are there for them to use as they please. But it has to be said that when they are European, non-Muslim, Western women, this is exacerbated. They see all of these women who are non-Muslims as completely loose whores, just women that they can use and throw away and that they shouldn't care about, that they don't need to care about, because they have been taught that these women are unimportant. So in the Quran, they talk about what your right hand possesses, malakat aymanukum. And that means that what your right hand possesses are women who are sex slaves, non-Muslim women who were taken as war booty, basically. So that's the kind of thing you would see with Yazidi women in Iraq, with, Israeli women and Hamas, with Hindu women in Pakistan, with Christian women in Nigeria, and here in the UK, you saw that with the gangs, the Rotherham gangs, and it's all coming from that same mindset of non-Muslim women being, just treated with such disdain that they can just be used and abused and thrown away.
She reported without a hint of trouble for more than an hour.
And what happened then?
Our camera battery went down. And we had to stop for a moment, and suddenly Baha looks at me and says, "We've got to get out of here."
Baha is not happy here?
He's Egyptian, he speaks Arabic, and he can hear what the crowd is saying.
Yes.
He understands what no one else in the crew understands.
That's right. I was told later that they were saying, "Let's take her pants off." And it's like suddenly, before I even know what's happening, I feel hands grabbing my breasts, grabbing my crotch, grabbing me from behind. I mean, it's not, one person and then it stops. It's like one person and another person and another person. And I know Ray is right there and he's grabbing at me and screaming, "Lara, hold on to me, hold on to me."
As she was pulled into the frenzy, the camera recorded her shout.
Stop! And I'm screaming, thinking, if I scream, if they know, they're going to stop. Someone's going to stop them, or they're going to stop themselves because this is wrong. And it was the opposite. The more I screamed, it turned them into a frenzy.
Someone in the crowd shouted that she was an Israeli, a Jew. Neither is true, but to the mob, it was a match to gasoline. The savage assault turned into a murderous fury.
I have one arm on Ray. I've lost the fixer, I've lost the drivers, I've lost everybody except him. And I feel them tearing at my clothing. I think my sweater was torn off completely. My shirt was around my neck. I felt the moment that my bra they tore the metal clips of my bra. They tore those open. And I felt that because I felt the air on my chest, on my skin. And I felt them tear out. They literally just tore my pants to shreds. And then I felt my underwear go. And I remember looking up, when my clothes gave way, I remember looking up and seeing them taking pictures with their cell phones, the flashes of their cell phone cameras. I felt at that moment that Ray was my only hope of survival. He was looking at me and I could see his face, and we had a sea of people between us, obviously tearing at both of us, beating us. I didn't even know that they were beating me with flagpoles and sticks and things, because I couldn't even feel that, because I think of the sexual assault was all I could feel, was their hands raping me over and over and over again.
Raping you with their hands?
Yeah.
Non-stop?
No, from the front, from the back. And I didn't know if I could hold on to Ray. I'm holding on to him. I didn't want to let go of him. I thought I was going to die if I lost hold of him.
But in that moment, Ray, a former Special Forces soldier, was torn away.
When I lost Ray, I thought that was the end. It was like all the adrenaline left my body. Because I knew in his face, when he lost me, he thought I was going to die. They were tearing my body in every direction at this point, tearing my muscles. And they were trying to tear off chunks of my scalp. They had my head in different directions.
Laura was dragged along by the mob until they were stopped by a fence. At that spot, a group of Egyptian women were camped out.
And I almost fell into the lap of this woman on the ground who was head to toe in black. Just her eyes, I remember, just her eyes I could see.
Wearing a chador.
Yes. And she put her arms around me. And oh my God, I can't tell you what that moment was like for me. I wasn't safe yet because the mob was still trying to get at me. But now it wasn't just about me anymore. It was about their women. And that was what saved me, I think. The women kind of closed ranks around me, and I remember one or two, maybe three men standing with them, and the women were throwing water on the crowd, and they were pouring water over me because I couldn't breathe. You know, I was rasping.
By this time, her team had convinced a group of soldiers to go in after her.
Finally, some soldiers fought their way through the crowd with batons, beating the mob back, and that was the moment I thought, I have a chance to get out of here alive. And I grabbed the first soldier and I did not let him go. Boy, I was not letting go of him. And I'm screaming and hysterical. I'm like a wild thing at this point. I mean, you imagine my hair is everywhere because they've tried to tear my scalp to pieces. My clothes are shredded. I'm filthy, black with dirt from going down into the filth.
The soldiers took you out of there?
That one soldier that I was holding on to, he threw me over his back, and they still had to beat the mob back to get through it, back to the tank where they had more soldiers.
But do you think it's possible to ever integrate these men, to re-educate these men, or do you think that's essentially a lost cause?
Well, I think that we should take a step back, and before we allow men to just come into the country, whether it's on their dinghies or whether it's through open borders or however it is that they're coming in, that's the problem. The problem is that we're not controlling our borders, and what we have to be doing is we have to make sure that the people that are entering the country are people that we want here. They are people that share our values, that possibly have skills and abilities that are going to be able to serve the country that they are joining. But what happens is we're just letting anyone in that carries such deeply held beliefs, and then we expect that just because they've moved geographical locations that they're going to suddenly change their minds and see women as equals, or, you know, no, absolutely, that's not going to change. That's going to take generations to change, if it will change at all, because these ideas don't have borders. They get perpetuated, right? Generation after generation, they're just teaching their children the same thing again and again. It's what I was taught in Islamic schools in Canada. You know, I was born and raised in the West. Many of the people that I speak to on my podcast, born and raised all over Europe, America, Australia, it doesn't matter. We're getting taught these things in Western countries. So that
how do you think, this is just your own opinion, your wife has benefited from taking that step away from that religious ideology that she grew up with?
Well, Jesus said, blessed are those who they hate their parents compared to the way they love me. You know, we're meant to do that, And he goes, blessed are those who leave their mother and their father, you know.
That's right. Yeah, if you don't forsake, if you're not willing, I think my understanding of that is you need to be willing to sacrifice everything, including the relationships with your own family, for Jesus, or you're not worthy of Christ. Yeah,
yeah, and that's the thing. That's the thing that she struggled. I understand her position. I don't think if it wasn't for her mother, I don't think she would have had a problem leaving. There wouldn't have been an issue leaving at all, right? It was just knowing how much it hurt her mum, and she didn't want that to happen. Now, if I was to flip that around, I would say I wish her mother would put all this garbage aside, all this Islam garbage aside, and say, I love you regardless, you know?
But she can't do that?
And she can't do that. That's the thing.
Would that make her a bad Muslim if she did that?
Yeah, according to Islam, she'll be a bad Muslim.
Yeah.
According to Islam, she'll be. And I know that she has, like, put photos in her mailbox, wrote her letters and, stuff like that. Tried to reach out to a certain extent, and she's never ever received a reply. So she's effectively dead to them, completely dead. Now, I got a friend that's a mutual friend with her brother, right? And he has known this man. They've known each other for a long, long time. And when he found out about my wife and me and the fact that it was her brother, he said, because they always used to talk, they would talk a lot, They'll have a business relationship, but they ended up becoming really good friends as well. And her brother would normally call this guy, my friend, brother. He goes, don't call me brother anymore, because we can literally be brothers, because I'm actually kind of related to him now via marriage through some cousins and that, because his son married one of my cousin's daughters and stuff. Anyway, it's a long thing, but us Wogs, we're all family, right? And he goes, we could literally be brothers right now, but we can't be, because you have denied your sister. You've rejected her. He goes, what sort of a religion does that? Well, how can you think that that's justifiable, that that's good to you?
Because it's a religion of fear, it's not a religion of love. It doesn't inspire with love. That is the difference. Like you won't see the love really expressed in the Islamic text, but you will see all throughout the Bible. There's about 300 Bible verses where it literally says love. You don't see that in the Quran. So it's totally different in the spirit that's behind it. And I always think of I think of the Middle East and the Islamic world, and these countries used to be, they weren't Islamic originally. They didn't all convert to, because the majority in the Middle East are Islamic. The population's Islamic.
Yep.
Do you think that these people all converted to Islam of their own volition?
No, of course
no. There was peer pressure. It was taxation with the jizya tax. It was by the sword.
Yeah.
If you don't convert, we'll kill you. And the people that convert, I don't believe they're all saying, you know what, this is great. Thank you for putting a sword to my neck.
Yeah.
Now I see the truth.
Thanks, man.
And I don't think a lot of these Muslims think that way.
Yeah.
They think, oh no, we've got the truth. Yeah, you were forced. Your ancestors were forced into this at one stage. Maybe not all of them, but the majority would have been. What's inspiring about that? And how does that inspire anyone to go, I want to become a Muslim? While you've got a sword to your throat. To convert. I don't understand how we can not reconcile, I don't understand how we can reconcile the threat and the force and the coercion aspect of their religion, which is a major part of why it accomplished victory in their campaigns across the Middle East and North Africa. How you can reconcile that with truth.
You know what's funny? If you look through history, the bad guys are always fueled by fear.
Yes.
Always. They're always fueled. They do everything. Like you can imagine a lot of the things that were done under Hitler, in the Nazi party or whatever, a lot of these guys followed orders. If they didn't, they'll be persecuted,
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
And a lot of the things are done by fear. But you look at the most bravest people in history, like, that would stick to the truth, that would go and burn at the stake, Christian martyrs that were ready to be, fed to the lions because they stood for the truth. All these people did. Now, who's the personification of truth? Jesus Christ. Who is God? Love. When you love the truth, you stand for God. You will die. You're ready to die. You've got no problem with that.
Greater love of no man than this, that a man lays down his life for his friends.
Amen.
That's real, and that's power.
That's power.
That's incredible power and that's inspiring power, because when you see that, it's no longer just an idea. This idea of love, you see and you go, wow, there's something special about that.
Yeah.
And Islam doesn't have that. They have I know, because I've been around the community for so long.
Yeah.
It is driven by fear.
Yeah.
You must do this. You must submit to that. Not I want to, because the core of who you are is your heart.
Yeah.
Right? That's what the heart means. When you talk about the heart, and when you read about the heart in the Bible, it's talking about your will.
Yeah.
The things that you want. And that's why I think, we read Bible verses like in Jeremiah where it says the heart is desperately wicked. Right?
Yes.
But when we have a pure heart, we want what's right. And that means we have love in our heart. We have purity in our heart. We have justice in our heart. We have goodness in our heart. But when your heart's filled with fear, I must do this. It's righteous and good for me to make decisions that are based on fear. I must do this because this is what we've always done since the people put swords to our necks and killed our cousins and our brothers and our family, and then we converted. Now we're going to continue to perpetuate that. That's the reality of what Islam is. That's what I understand it to be. But I don't think that a lot of these Muslims now realize that your ancestors were forced into this religion, and you're just perpetuating the same ideology that brought them, that took away your actual history. And Christianity inspires with it gives you the freedom to make choices. It's got it doesn't force you to want to be a Christian. That's the difference. Islam is by force.
Yes.
The Islamic world didn't become Islamic through inspiration, although it was inspiration. The inspiration with fear. People weren't inspired to become Muslims because they went, how great is this? The majority of them were inspired by, if I don't go along with this, I'm going to die, when they were doing the Islamic campaigns. And that's what I think a lot of these Muslims need to realize and try to reconcile is, how did your family become Muslim? Well, it was it was through conquest.
Conquest, that's it.
How did we become Christians? It was through inspiration and the power of God. Totally different.
Yeah, amen.
Did you just know as well that she was the one? Did you know that from as soon as you saw her?
Oh, yeah.
Because I have that experience with my wife.
Yeah.
I saw her and I was like, wow.
Yeah.
And she said, my wife said the same thing. I mean, she said, not that wow or anything, but she said that God told her that I would be her husband.
Yeah.
So she had I don't think it was an audible voice, but she just knew, and she heard it like a voice somehow, that I was to be a husband. So there's God puts people together.
Yeah. Well, my wife says that's the moment she saw me, she loved me. She straight away she knew it was me.
Yeah.
It was one of those things where I knew, but I was restrained, and I thought, why would she look at me? That was the thing, because there were so many guys that liked her, and I'm like, why would she like me? You know what I mean? But in the end, the more I could see that she was, she showed back that love, and there was a chance, and I knew God was on my side, man. There was nothing going to stop me, Nick. Nothing. Mate, when you know God's for you, mate, who can be against you? That's what the Word of God says. I mean, literally, doesn't matter what was coming against us. We would go out boldly knowing that he's got our back. There's no one better than Jesus, man. He's got your back. He's got your back.
Greater is he who is in me than he who is in the world. I always think of that.
Can you imagine living life thinking to yourself, man, I've got the creator of heaven and earth. He's got my back. Instead of thinking that he's out to get you and he's going to barbecue you in hell, right? like Allah does. Come on,
That's
man.
the difference, isn't it?
Big difference, man. Big difference.
That's why so many you see so many Christians are and Christian communities are building up in the Middle East now in secret, and in countries like North Korea as well, extreme communist countries, because there's real power in it, and there's purpose in it, and that's interesting. The idea of purpose. I just want to touch on that a little bit, because purpose is something that I don't think we don't learn about purpose. We think we can we don't learn in school what purpose is. It's all about you can find your own purpose, do what you want to do, follow your heart, right? We actually have a purpose that was given to us before we were even created. God has a plan and a purpose for us.
Yeah.
We're always going to be better at doing what God created us to do than trying to do something else.
100%.
But this world's voice is screaming at us to do something else. And I just want to say this and encourage people that if you're in a position where the intention behind something is empowered by fear, it's the wrong thing to do. If the pressure behind decisions that you're making is fear, anxiety, doubt, anything that you know is not of God, it's wrong. And I mean, I know myself, I can think about certain decisions that I've made in the past that ended up, affording me nothing of value. And I can think back and go, I was inspired by fear at that time. That's why I made that decision. Now that I know that, when I get to a hard decision to make, and I have that fearful voice, I can identify it, and I never listen to it now.
That's right.
Because it's a liar. It actually, that voice of fear came at me because we ran a Christian event, which you were at the other day, and it was actually in direct opposition to the Shia Muslims surrounding the largest cathedral in our country, largest Christian monument.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of fear come at me, doubt, all of these things. I've never had so much ever in my life. COVID was nothing.
Yeah.
And because I'm in that, I am quite close to I know a lot of the Albanian community. I know a lot of the Muslim community. I train fighters. I know a lot of them that are Muslims, been to their weddings. And I thought, this is going to be so hard, but I have to speak the truth. Then when I started to speak out and organise this event that was in direct opposition to what the Muslims are doing in our community, well, in our society, I had so many people from that weren't even Muslims attack me and pressure me to and then I started getting called names and all the rest of it, which actually eventually made it easier. But it's all of that pressure it's all driven by fear. It's pushing fear. It's driven by hatred, and it's control. And I can identify it now, and I can see that the spirit behind these things. And it's not just Islam. It's the Marxism, and it's the mechanisms in our society that are now trying to destroy our whole culture, which is Christian, by the way.
Yep.
You can see that that's all driven by fear and empowered by fear and doubt and all of these hopelessness and anxiety and hatred. And I've really been empowered and I've been actually shown a vision of this too, that these things are going to happen, but a man that has confidence and a man that has courage and a man that has integrity will not be influenced and overpowered or impeded by those voices. He will continue to persevere for the truth, even if his name's slandered, even if the people hate him.
Amen.
He's still going to do the truth.
Amen.
And that's what and that's why obviously we're starting this podcast as well.
Yeah. Hey Nick.
Yeah.
The man who builds his house on the rock, not on the sand. Sand, it's just going to get swept away. The rock, who's the rock? Jesus Christ.
Yeah, the truth.
If our identity is in Christ, the one thing that really inspired me, man, especially during COVID, there were a lot of non-Christians there that were protesting. Mm-hmm. But you know what? They knew the truth. They just didn't know the person of truth yet, the personification of truth.
Yeah, well, that's
yet.
interesting because we're all. I think they know the truth. They just don't consciously know because all men are born with the light. That light. It's the light that lights every man. And then it tells us in John chapter 1 that light is Christ. It's the Spirit of Christ. We're all born with that, but we're trained from a young age now to not give it any credibility, so that when we make decisions, the loud voices on the outside overpower the voice from within that says this is wrong. But you see, there are still a lot of people that might even claim to be atheists, yet they will still go, you know what, I can't do what everyone else is telling me to do. I know it's wrong. And then I'll ask them, how do you know it's wrong? They go, I just something inside of me. Okay, so that's a spirit. What do you mean? You say to the atheist, well, how you know that's a spirit is you can't objectively prove any evidence of that voice.
Yeah, that's right.
But you're willing to lose all of these objectively observable and real things for that voice inside. Yeah. So it shows you that that's more powerful and that we are, because we're spiritual beings.
Yeah.
And I so want the Muslim people to realize that the power, because they're being empowered now, you can see throughout the West, and they think it's because they're great. No, it's because Marxism.
It's the plan.
Yeah, it's planned, and it's because Marxism, cultural Marxism, has crept into our society, and they've destroyed a lot of the identity and foundation of the children, and then they've grown up without a real foundation. That's why we see, the pro-Palestinian rallies where you'll see a lot of Western people who have lost their identity. They're not built on the rock anymore.
That's it.
They don't appreciate the values that we have, and they don't understand what's given us prosperity. They don't understand what's given us everything of beauty that we've enjoyed in this culture, because cultural Marxism's got in, given them a false sense of history, given them different values, and that's what's weakened them. And that's why we see them, a lot of these Western people aligning with Muslims, radical Muslims, and we see them at the pro-Palestinian rallies where they've got the Australian flag and they're burning it, or they're cutting out the Union Jacks, or they've got terrorist flags, ISIS flags, and these Western people are aligning with these people. That's because the people are lost. This is one of the big issues we have in our culture now, is that we're not just fighting for our culture, we're fighting against cultural Marxism, and we're fighting against Islam and every other ideology that's not Christian. We are under attack, but we need to persevere through this, because this is what we've been told biblically is going to happen. I always say to people, you've got to look at the world through the biblical lens if you want to understand why things are the way they are.
Yeah,
they're not happening organically. Yep. There's an agenda behind
there's
it.
A push,
there's Satan and there's God, and they're the two extremes of this battle, and we're in the middle of it. So if you don't connect those 2 points, it doesn't make sense, and you can come up with all sorts of distorted views, such as like we're talking about, where you've got Western people who are at these rallies where they've got the jihad flags there and they're walking with the same people. They're completely lost. They don't understand who they are, or how or what we come from, or what our history is.
People that have no moral footing or no identity, and this is a thing about Christianity. Christ wants us to be the best version of ourselves in Him. In Him. He wants us to overcome. The Bible says, blessed is the overcomer. Hey, Ben's got certain issues in certain areas. Overcome them, Ben, and do it out of love. What's love? Love ultimately is just a choice. It was presented in the Garden of Eden with, you can eat out of everything, just one thing. Just don't eat out of this tree. God had to create choice to create love.
100%, because love has to be freely given. You can't force somebody to love you.
That's all it was. It's a choice. And what does that mean? This man does bad to me, I can choose to do good to him back.
Well, that's why there's no love in Islam, because it's by force. You have to submit. Not whereas if I have to and I'm compelled to, you tell me how many women would want to marry a man that forces them to marry him.
You know, yeah, that's right. And Islam strips the identity of every man. Every man. You now have to cut your beard a certain way. You now have to dress a certain way. When you enter the toilet, you have to enter with your left foot, not your right foot, right? You're literally, all your identity and everything, all your free will is stripped from you.
Well, you're being reformed. You're being reordered.
Yeah. Into the image of Muhammad. You know, like whatever Muhammad did or however he wore his beard, that's the best way to do it, you know, and how he dressed and how he spoke and how he walked, where Christianity is vigorously independent, you know, and we all follow one who is Christ, but he doesn't tell us how to dress. I mean, he tells us to be modest, right? But you know, he tells us, be the best version. Come back to me. Don't follow a pastor or a preacher or this guy or that guy. No. Follow me. I'm the good shepherd.
Well, the thought precedes the action, but what precedes the thought? It's the heart. The heart's your will. So your will, the things you want come from the heart, and then from there it goes to your mind as to how to get the things you want, and then from your mind to your words and your actions. And you see that Islam creeps in and it brings fear and pressure and coercion into your heart, so that you don't have that freedom to make choices and make mistakes. God's happy for us to make mistakes, right? That's one of the things that you see biblically. Like, people make mistakes. And I know in my own life, God's taken me in directions where he's given me opportunities to make a choice. And I'm sure he knew I was going to make the wrong choice. Yeah. But out of making that wrong choice, I've learned so much and I've gained something. And it's interesting, you see, like in the fight community, obviously, like, you know, I met you through the fight gyms as well. You see in the fight community, like at the top, like some of the top fighters who are Christians, and they're not like these perfect ambassadors. A lot of them are just messy, you know, and they're like Tyson Fury. You know, he's a mess. But he still says Christ. You know, and it shows that God, you know, think of Jesus when he was with publicans and sinners. Right? And they said, why are you with these publicans and sinners? He says, I'm not here for the people that are perfect.
That's it.
I'm here for the ones that are messy. And that's the reality about it. And we can be a mess, because that's part of what this world is. And I think that's where Islam can be very fake, because and a lot of the Christian churches do this as well. They can be very fake, where they pretend to appear a certain way, but the reality is that's not true. That's not. Whereas we should actually be able to acknowledge that, I did do those things, and I was that, and that we all have the capacity to make those mistakes, because that actually humbles us. And like we read a number of times in the Bible where it says, "He who humbles himself will be exalted."
Amen.
But if you can't humble yourself, you're not going to be able to be exalted, because you're not built on the truth. That's part of it. Realizing I'm a mess. I'm a mess, God, and I can't do anything of my own. Actually, it's a great quote from Braveheart where he says, "God makes men who they are." So, and I think sometimes it probably, agree, God likes to use a messy person who's all over the place to do amazing things, to show it wasn't him that did it.
That's
it. It's me through him that did it.
Well, look at David. Look at Samson. You know, God used the most imperfect people, man.
Well, Samson was, he was with the ladies. He was, he was, he was a mess. But he still ended up, and it actually hurt him. He suffered for it too. So it shows that there's this justice of God, but yet still God used him, and he still fulfilled his purpose.